Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. You're on. Yeah, we're on here. And Josh, are you here? Josh Roten, can you post comments? Everybody else are. I'm seeing comments from others. So Josh just sent me a note saying that I had comments turned off, but apparently they are on. It does show them on. Yeah, I see Steve. Hey, Steve, Nick. Um, Again, it doesn't tell me how many people are on, so I was kind of hoping to see that. If you're on and you're watching, just go ahead and shoot me a hi there, just so I can sort of get an idea of who's here. Like I say, when you shoot live on your phone, it pops up as to who's here, and it lets me know that I've got how many people, 10, 15, maybe only 3. Hey, Michael, boy, it's been a long time. How have you been? We'll go ahead and get started here since everybody's here. Well, since I don't know how many people are here. The whole purpose of this, and I was going to shoot this outside, but it's windy out next to JR's pool, and I had to come down from my place because my place, I'm on satellite internet. And if anybody here is on HughesNet, it absolutely is horrible. It drops off. It's very intermittent. So I'm down here borrowing JR's bandwidth to use this. And like I say, we were going to do this outside, but there's some construction going on next door. Plus, it's windy out. So plan B was to come in here and do it on his living room off of his coffee table. What you can't see is I've got an assortment of gear. That's just one piece right next to me here, which I'll be bringing up and talking about here in a minute. What we're going to do, and the purpose of this is the first one, so we'll see how many we do in the future. My goal is, if this goes off well, that I'll do maybe one a week, and with input from you guys, the audience, to see what you want to talk about or what you want to hear, what we can talk about. Today, I'm going to go through a couple of different things. I'm going to go through the Guardian full face mask and the sort of do a comparison of the Guardian full face mask to the Spectrum, and I've got a Spectrum here if it's not all tied up, to the Spectrum full face mask, and compare it to a Guardian. And here's a Guardian full face mask. So I've got the two full face masks, and I want to go over what the differences are between the two. I'll talk about anything really. If somebody wants to pop up a question there, I'll address those as they come up. Let me know if you have any questions. This is, like I said, it was going to be a poolside chat. Now it's going to be a living room chat because of the circumstances as I just described. And then after I go through the full face mask, I'll take maybe 15 minutes going through the full. JR's cat back there. I'll take about 15 minutes going through the full face masks, and then after that I'll talk about underwater communications, hardwire, wireless, the differences between the two. Again, it's going to be real important if you guys will, shoot me some questions if we're going to address some things. I'll talk about a little bit about signal propagation, microphone placement, critical things like that in the use of underwater communications. But if you have any basic questions, something that I don't go through, certainly feel free to ask. Now, the Guardian came out and we introduced it in 2008, and I'm going to pop I've got a Guardian here. I'm going to pop the regulator off. That's one of the things we will be talking about. But the Guardian came out in 2008. Now, when you look at this mask, you can see some similarities. I got weird focusing with the camera here. Some similarities to other masks that are on the market. The visor is an example. When we designed this visor, we wanted to use it with the ABV as an aftermarket product for another mask that's out there, the Interspiro. Our visor is slightly different, but it fits, and it's actually U.S. Navy approved for installation into this. Some of the features of the Guardian, and then I'll talk about how it compares to the Spectrum. The Guardian has we started off really with the seal. We wanted the most comfortable mask that fits the best of anything that's out there. Okay, there it goes. For some reason it wasn't scrolling. Oh, a lot of comments here. That we wanted the most comfortable and the best sealing mask. One of the problems with the Interspiro, great mask. I'm not here to bash any masks. I'm just here to talk about the features of ours. We developed a double-edged seal, which is going to be a little hard to show you here, but we developed a double-edged seal that really fits on most faces. We fit, sort of as a comparison, we fit really around, and this is an arbitrary number, but it's fairly accurate from experience. We're fitting about 8 or 9 out of 10 people. And whereas the Interspiros or other masks, you can get 7 or 8 out of 10, which is, it's a significant improvement. And the burping at the temples, we virtually eliminated that. So we focused really, spent a lot of time focusing on the seal of the mask. The next thing we wanted, and this is something I really insisted on, because I always thought that unthrowing a hose from your mask was kind of inconvenient. So we developed the quick release. Well, that's not unique. I mean, the Draeger Nova does this as well, but we did it a little bit different. What we did is we put the quick release on the inside. We lowered the profile. Plus, we allowed for an integrated full face mask. Now, integrated regulator to the full face mask. Now, what I mean by that, this is a proprietary regulator. When you breathe on this regulator, you're not breathing up through the regulator itself like you do with a standard bite mouthpiece. What you're doing is you're breathing, the diaphragm comes in, and it injects the air through a vent here at the top of the regulator into a set of nostrils, if you will, in the lower clamp. And that drives the gas through. I'm getting used to using the camera here. It drives all the air up across your visor through a pair of vents. Now, that's similar to what Interspiro does, but what we do is we make a quick release on the regulator. So you can disengage your regulator from the mask, so that when you're done the dive, you just reach in, you push the button. When I say push the button, there's a little spring, and you can see those springs collapse in there. That releases the regulator, and now you can separate. Your regulator stays with your regulator assembly, just like it always has with your bite mouthpiece. And then you can take your mask and you can hang it, on the dive boats, it always gets hung on a cylinder someplace. And so it's from a convenience standpoint, you're not dragging your mask around. You can dry it, hang it, and be prepared for your next dive. That's one of the features. The other thing, as I mentioned, it's an integrated regulator, so the airflow of the mask comes up through these 2 vents underneath each eye, circulates across the visor here. They're scrolling pretty fast. Hi, Cindy. The things are scrolling pretty. So if you have questions, I'll try to get to them. But the air circulates across the visor. Now that defogs the mask. Then as you continue to inhale, you inhale down through a pair of check valves, and in front of each mask, or in the oral nasal pocket, you inhale down through the check valves. Check valves do what check valves do, in that they block the airflow from the return, create a one-way flow of gas through the mask. So it blocks that air from going back up into the visor area and forces it out through the diaphragm assembly of the regulator. So again, that results in low CO or effective defogging of your mask. Also effective CO2 washout. So when you have that one-way flow of gas in the mask, you're exhaling out through the diaphragm. Air's coming in one direction, going out another direction. So you have a low incidence of CO2 accumulation inside the mask. And we all remember from our basic open water training, it's CO2 that's retained in your body that stimulates the breathing response. So it's really important that you, Dan Morelli just asked when it's going to start. Hey, JR, can you get on the chat tool and tell Dan we're on the Ocean Technology Systems page, that we're there now? Just to let anybody that's standing by there let us know. Let them know that we're here. So again, effective CO2 washout, any retained CO2 in the mask is what stimulates your breathing response. So it's kind of important to keep your CO2 levels down, so that you're not increasing your SAC rate, your surface air consumption, the figure that we use for judging our air consumption. And what else do we have? Integrated communications, obviously. We're a communications company, and so really any full face mask out there, we put communications in. So we designed it with ours for our communications, and specialized specifically for this. Now, the mask also comes with an ambient breathing valve. Now, the ABV, what it allows you to do is to open your valve while you're on the surface, so you're not drawing your tank down. When you think about it, anytime you put a full face mask on your face, you're going to be sealed from the outside. So you're breathing your cylinder down. So what the ABV allows you to do is you open this up. Now you're breathing the outside air. So when you're on the surface, you're not consuming your cylinder. So you're conserving your air. So it's not, so you're saving all your air for when you're underwater. Now, the one thing about this, it's not a snorkel. So you can't swim with your face in the water. As soon as the regulator touches the water, the ABV is shut off. Now, that's an automatic thing. It sounds complicated, but it's really simple. The water pressure, when the water hits the regulator, it's going to pressurize the mask, backfills the regulator, or backfills this check valve in the ABV. So you're not now breathing the outside air, you're breathing off your regulator. You can do long surface swims with an ABV. You don't want to task load very heavily with it. It's not designed for that application. It's designed primarily for while you're waiting for your buddy to get ready. In public safety diving, we have our standby divers and our 90% ready. 90% ready probably won't have his mask seated, but your standby diver should have his mask seated and the ABV open, so he's ready to respond. So those are some of the features. This mask is set up with a buddy phone. We can also set the mask up with an ear microphone assembly. This is my personal mask, beat up, but it's my personal mask. They do get beat up. And it's set up with an ear microphone assembly. And I'll talk about the different features of the masks or the comms, the different comms as we get into it, when we get into comms. But I wanted to go now through the spectrum. We'll look real quick for specific questions. Scroll any specific questions that scroll past, let me know. And but I want to go ahead and continue on it with a description of the spectrum. Okay, all right. Well, the Spectrum mask. Now, the Spectrum, we came out with it. It's been a few years now, and when we designed this, we designed it primarily for the sport market. Now, I'm going to preface that it was primarily designed for the sport market. My initial feelings, and I'll get into the features here in a minute. My initial feelings of this mask, of the Spectrum, was really, I didn't want to like it as much as I do. The Guardian was sort of kind of my baby. I was in on the ground floor in the development of the concept of the mask story. I won't get into that, of how we came up with the original idea and of the basic design and when we first kicked this off. But so I didn't have that much into this. I mean, I did a lot of the workup as far as prototyping and stuff, just from the diving side. Not the design work, because I'm not a draftsman or anything like that. But we designed it primarily for the sport market. We wanted to keep the price down in that you use your own regulator. So you can put your own regulator in here, as you can see on one of my personal masks. This is mine. I've got an older Ziegel TX50 in there, and with great regulator. You can put just about any regulator in here. There's some stipulations you want to read. There are some regulators that don't fit very well. If they have a double ridge on the mouthpiece tube, where you put your mouthpiece on, that's one we don't recommend for a couple of different reasons. But we did size this to fit most regulators out there. So it does fit almost all regulators that are on the market. So you use your own regulator you've already invested in. Where the Guardian regulator is a specific proprietary regulator that goes to the mask where it's integrated. This one's not. Now, what this won't do is this doesn't defog because you don't have that same flow of the air pattern. So when you're inhaling on this, you're inhaling and exhaling through the same channels, the same path. It's going to be as good. The one thing I would recommend is put a high performance second stage on it. We have found that lower end regulators, what you would find in the in a rental style regulator, the mask will tend to chatter a little bit more. Chatter is something I could spend another, do a whole subject on chatter of masks and what causes it and how you can try to mitigate that. But that'll be a little too long for getting into this. But again, you put your own regulator in it. There's no equalizing assembly on the inside of the oral nasal pocket, where the Guardian mask has a V block that goes underneath your nostrils that you adjust so that you can breathe. And then to equalize, you collapse that V block in against your nostrils. Look up. That's important. It's and a lot of people don't. A big mistake people make in equalizing is that if you watch when they equalize, you pinch their nose, they're going like this. Well, it's kind of important, and a helpful hint is to look up, because you're taking that tension off your eustachian tubes. The tube goes from your ears to your throat that allow you to equalize. So you pinch your nose or you close your nose off that V block and you can press against that and Valsalva. With the Guardian mask, or the Spectrum mask, you can pinch your nose just like with a regular mask. You can reach in, there's a nose pocket here. So there's no equalizing assembly on the inside. That simplifies the mask, also makes it less expensive because we minimize the number of parts in it. We use a glass lens on this, where we have a polycarbonate lens on the Guardian mask. The one of the disadvantages of the Guardian is that you have to use an eyewear insert because you can't bond prescription lenses to that. Now with this, you can bond. It's got a glass lens, so you can take it in and you can have the lens bonded. Have prescription dive masks. Linda Young at prescriptiondivemask.com out in San Diego, friend of the company's, and she does a really good job. You send her your prescription and she can actually grind and bond lenses to this for your prescriptions. Now, my personal mask, for us old people, I put hopefully that shows there, I put a reader in there, just reader to get this one. Actually, was one that from a company that's now out of business, unfortunately. But you can also get the ones from, like this one's from the pharmacy that I have stuck in my Guardian mask. You can get them from the pharmacy, just to stick in readers for reading gauges. As we get older, we can't read our gauges any farther, and you can't hold your gauges far enough from you. So anyway, back to the Spectrum mask. So glass lens. Now the disadvantage is it doesn't defog, because there's no flow pattern in here, as with the integrated mask. So with that, you're going to need to use a defog solution, 500 psi, sea drops, liquid gold, whatever the commercial brands are. And I'll be honest with you, in my dry suit pocket, I keep a bottle of it's CVS pharmacy brand baby shampoo, the scent-free, no more tears, what I'd recommend. Otherwise, you're smelling it's not bad, but you're smelling the shampoo, the scent of the shampoo, throughout your dive. So it's not, but it's not that big of a deal. Treat the lens. When you buy a Spectrum, it comes with a little card that tells you how to clean the lens and treat it for the initial treatment for defogging, just like you would any other mask. There's all different kinds of ways, people using cigarette lighters and all kinds of stuff. You can do that if you want. I found that I just scrub it down with toothpaste and it works well. Apply a light coat of the defog solution, give it a light rinse, so you just get rid of the lines. Basically, you still have a coat of the soap on there, and then that's worked well for me. I've had other people that it seems like any mask people have issues with, but I've found that it does well just with baby shampoo. Now, this is an option, and I'll try to talk about some other things as far as options to the masks. This is the ABV for the Spectrum mask. Now, to keep the price down, because again, we're targeting the sport market, it doesn't include all the things that you get, say, with the Guardian mask. With the Guardian mask, you get a bag, you get a hose for your regulator, because you're getting a regulator. This one, no regulator here. And you get a bag and you get the ABV. It's all included. Of course, it's a more expensive premium mask. To keep this price down, we have now the ABV as an add-on option. It works a little bit different. You can't, if you go in the water with it, you're going to get some water in your mask. Whereas with the Guardian, if you go in the water, you won't get any water in your mask as long as you're upright. If you put the ABV lower in the water column than your diaphragm assembly, then you're going to get water in your mask. That's a subject for another conversation, I think. But the ABV on this one, since it's positioned lower and relatively the same position in the water column as your diaphragm, if you go in the water with it, you have the potential of getting water in your mask. Key to that is always remember to close your ABV before you get in the water. This is part of your dive training. I would recommend this, and you're going to you should read the manual. I can't stress that enough. How many people don't read the manual? So read the manual, go through it. We have a lot of suggestions in there as to how to learn to dive with the full face mask. Is it necessary to do a class for the full face mask? It's a good idea. If you have a local shop that's teaching full face masks, then do it. Take their class. Now he has a full face mask course. Josh Roten did a lot of work on that. And Patty has one. I worked with Patty on their full face mask course. It's good. There are some things about it that I'd like to see different, but it is what it is. So what else about this? The mask is very comfortable, and I've seen comments here. I love my Spectrum. Rachel just posted that. It is, and I said at the very beginning of this, I didn't want to like this mask as much as I do. In reality, it's probably one of the most comfortable masks I have ever worn. You put a new, JR, respond to Mike and tell him to go to Ocean Technology Systems page. Mike Carew, and Mike's from New York, Captain Mike Staff Center there. He's posted, how do I sign in? But like I said, I didn't really want to like this mask as much as I do, but I have to tell you, it's just crazy comfortable. Not as convenient. You got your regulator zip tied. We're talked about different solutions in zip ties. I'm not a big fan of zip ties. The European models, we do have a different method to meet CE of attaching it. If you're in Europe or anywhere that you need to follow the CE recommendations, then read the manual on it, because we have a different manual on that, and it's a different installation method. You just need to follow it with a pipe clamp. Well, with this, what we do is we have you zip tie it in, and again, it's not that convenient. It's a little bit of a pain to get it set up, but once you have it set up, it's not bad. You will be dragging this around with your regulator, and unless you put a quick disconnect on your regulator, your second stage. I'm not a big fan of quick disconnects. People that listen to my lectures, they all know that. But under these circumstances, a quick disconnect might be your best solution for that. Me, I have a tendency to finger tight the fitting of my second stage. I just finger tight this, make sure that when you press it, it shouldn't move. Buff out scuff marks on the Guardian. It's something I haven't really played with, but you might try. Is it the Novus polishes you can get from the boat store, from any marine supply, that they use for polishing out scratches on your isinglass for your boat, and they come in different, like 1 through 6, I believe, in polishing compounds. Try that. I haven't used it, and I can't really tell you. It's a question that comes up a lot. One of these days, I need to sit down and inspect that. Now, okay, Kyle asked about clearing the Spectrum. Let's talk about Guardian real fast. With the Guardian mask, when you put the Guardian mask on, I watched my Ditch and Dawn video. Go to our website. Real quick, I'm going to go off on a rabbit trail here. If you haven't logged on to our website, go to oceantechnologysystems.com, not the Facebook page, but onto our regular page. It's our regular website, oceantechnologysystems.com. And when you log on to that, go up to where it says login. Now, if you're not logged in, click login, and then you'll scroll down and you'll see register as a new user. Fill out all the information there. If you're an Interspiro or not, if you're an Interspiro or a Guardian technician, fill out the information with that. You'll get access to the shopping carts, so you can buy stuff there. And there's a lot of information, but you don't have to be registered to go to our videos. And we have a video on there where I'm clearing a full face mask, a Guardian. And it's pretty simple that when you clear the Guardian, you follow the instructions on that, and also describe it in the manual, is that you're going to put the mask on, you're going to look up, seal it to your face, you don't have to tighten the straps yet, and then you're going to exhale what air you have left. Be careful with exhaling all of your air, because you want to make sure you got air to breathe in, and you hit the purge. And when you hit the purge, then it's going to evacuate the air, you're going to evacuate the water, you're going to displace that water, it's going to all go down to the bottom. You seal the mask to your face, you hit a purge again, and then take a tentative breath, and you're going to exhale. Okay, that's the Guardian. Now with the Spectrum, it's a little different, and you do want to spend some time playing with this. Get in the pool before you go out into open water. Get in the pool and put your Spectrum on. Get in the shallow end of the pool where you just rest down on your knees. Get in the shallow water. If anything happens, you exhale and stand up. Exhale and stand up. Blow and go. Always remember that. Don't stand up without taking a deep breath, even in the shallow end of the pool. You don't want to risk that. But what you're going to do is you're going to look up, just like with a standard mask where you're clearing the standard mask. You're going to look up and you're going to hit your purge button, and you're going to evacuate the air. Primarily, you're going to find that the air clears from the oral nasal pocket first. Then, as you need to, you're going to dump the water down, and you're going to do basically sort of a double clearing. Now, I've played with it, and I've managed to clear it out a few times, or I've managed to learn how to do it all at once, where you're looking up, you're hitting your purge, you're looking up, flexing the mask a little bit. The big deal is looking up so that you're displacing the water out of the mask. You're capturing it into the vessel that is your full face mask. Take some time and play with that. Learn how to do it. You want to learn how to do it from to a point of where it's second nature, where you're comfortable doing it. Practice this drill on a regular basis. It's a skill set that can be a little bit on the perishable side. So it is a matter of remaining or maintaining your proficiency with the mask. So always, keep that your skill sets going. If you haven't dived for a while, throughout the winter, we're coming back into now, not a lot of diving going on right now because not a lot of people are collecting on boats because of social distancing. I hope everybody's doing well with that. By the way, I didn't say anything about that earlier. But do play with the mask, and I think you'll find that, number one, it's hard to flood the mask. Number two, once you do, if you ever do get any water in the mask, it's pretty easy to be able to get that out. Did that cover pretty well? I know I shot through this pretty fast. I wanted to make sure that I don't want to spend a whole lot of time because we're almost a half an hour into this, and I don't want to take up everybody's day. So we're 27 minutes into this, but that's the Spectrum versus the Guardian. I'll be honest with you. If somebody says, which one should I buy? Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's a personal decision on your part. I like them both. If somebody told me that the Spectrum's the only mask left in the world, I'd be cool with that. Now, is it going to replace my Guardian? No. I mean, the Guardian, the conveniences of the Guardian, the flow, the defogging, the quick disconnect on the regulator, the high mounted ABV, those are all advantages. The comfort of the Guardian is excellent, but the Spectrum, I don't ignore it. Depending on what you're doing, it's just a beautiful mask. Every time I'm in the water diving with it, it's like, I can't believe how comfortable this thing is. It's just remarkably comfortable. So the range of comms, is it Leanne? I think, I don't know, Leanne and Marie, Ms. Caldwell. What's the range of differences of the comms? Actually, both masks, and that's one of the things, the beautiful thing about being the company that manufactures the communications and the masks, is that we make the comms are cross-compatible to either mask. So you can mount a buddy phone on a Spectrum. I don't have a Spectrum with a buddy phone on it. No, that's an ear microphone assembly. Both of them have ear microphone assemblies. This is a Guardian with a buddy phone, but it mounts the same way. You use your wrench that comes with it, and oddly enough, I was looking for a wrench earlier. I have to bring one with me. But you use a wrench to mount this and take it off. And then it goes on the strap. The head harness is the same on the Guardian as the Spectrum, commonality of parts. And then but the comms are the same. So if you have a Spectrum or you have a Guardian, and if you carry a Spectrum as a backup mask, and if something happens to your Guardian, you can swap the comms out. So they're common. They're common, again, commonality across cross application of the same communications. So good question. Thanks for asking that. Elizabeth, I'm going to be saving this recording to our website, so you can go back to the very beginning of this, and you'll be able to watch it from the very beginning. I didn't really introduce myself. A lot of people know me. I'm the training director for Ocean Technology Systems. I've been with the company. It'll be 20 years in September. And so I'm kind of a senior guy. I feel senior. I asked my left hip that. But so I've been with the company for a long time, and I've taught a lot of classes. A lot of people that are scrolling up here, I know from my classes, and they're technicians. I train a lot of technicians. I think I'm upwards of around 8,000 technicians now that I've trained throughout the country and around the world. Also, the online classes, I wrote those as well. Kyle, I believe, Kyle asked about the rail system. I didn't bring a rail system with me. I kind of grabbed some stuff that I was going to expose here. The rail systems are different from the Guardian to the Spectrum. The Guardian has a bracket that goes on the side and it clamps down, and it has a rail system that you can move up and down. The Spectrum, look on our website, go to our website. There's a lot of useful information on the website, and take a look at the rail systems there. We're running a little long. If I get into that, I won't be talking about comms at all. But the rail systems are for attaching accessories, cameras, GoPros. Primarily, everybody's using GoPros. There's other sport cameras out there that are available. GoPro's not the only one. But primarily, everybody knows and familiar with the GoPros and GoPro mounts. So we have GoPro mounts, light mounts. Those are the primary things you're going to be mounting to your camera or to your mask. The one thing about light mounts is always put them opposite your exhaust. For not so much your lights, but your camera particularly. If you take the Guardian mask with, and I'm going to engage a regulator here. If you take a Guardian mask and you put your camera on the left-hand side, then when you're exhausting, your bubbles are going to go up in front of the camera. So you always mount the camera on the ABV side, which is not the most convenient, but we work that around that, in that the camera now sets here and there you don't get exhausted bubbles going in front of it. So the rail systems are available. The Spectrum has a rail system specifically designed for it. It's less expensive, and it's just a simple kind of an angle piece of component that you can mount lights and your GoPro cameras. We also have a GoPro mount that goes on the top of the Spectrum, and you can find that all on the website as well. So Mr. Cowart, I think we're off for May for the classes in Houston in May. We're not going to be able to make that. We will be rescheduling those classes here a little later on. If you put the light on the left-hand side, you get the great strobe action effect. Yeah, as you exhaust in front of it, the shadows of the bubbles are going to give you a kind of it'll interfere a little bit. We'll call it interfere a little bit with your video. Also, comms are on the opposite side of your bubble, your exhaust as well. That's the difference between the Interspiro and the Guardian. There's a buddy phone's on the opposite side of the mask. Speaking of buddy phones, let's talk about underwater communications. I'm just looking here. Make sure you rinse everything off real well. Always do that. I do have information on cleaning a full face mask, and it's been a discussion here recently as well as to how we clean our masks. If you're not familiar with Stearamine, Stearamine is readily available. It comes in a solid form that you dissolve in water. You can use it as a spray or a dunk. Let me touch on that real quick, and then I'll get the comms. Always clean your mask when you're done your dive. If it's a freshwater rinse, if it's your mask, that's fine. Get the salts out of it. It's really important to get the salts out of it. Any crud that you get on it, if you're diving in muddy or mucky water, you get duckweed or whatever, depending on where you're diving. You want to, sorry, I had a cat pass behind me there. You want to make sure you clean all that stuff off. Get all the crud off of it. Give it a good rinse. Soapy water solution, it works just fine. Yes, John, you can use it while spearfishing. We used them in the past with good success. Lobster hunting, it's not fair. Ask Ryan at our office. We used to tag team bugs all the time, and it works very well to be able to tag team whenever you get a lobster. It has a back door. The West Coast divers all know what I'm talking about there. Okay. But again, Stearamine dunk and a freshwater rinse will clean your mask for the most part. But you always want to make sure you clean your mask. Sharing masks, if you have to share masks, like on a public safety dive team, always make sure you disinfect your mask between divers. You don't want to be sharing any of the COVIDs, we'll say. So you don't want to be able to you don't want to be sharing any, as we've learned here in the pandemic. So let's see. I have somebody just asked me. I'm not going to be able to respond to him. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to respond to this guy. I'm not going to take the time to do that. Let's see. What else? Okay, back to the comms. We have wireless comms. Ocean Technology Systems has wireless communications, which is one of the most popular and well-known systems, is called the buddy phone. Now, the buddy phone is an all-inclusive communication system, and it's wireless. We'll talk about the wireless system in a minute. It has a push-to-talk button here. there's a cable that goes up to the transceiver, in that it transmits and it receives. So it's got this is your transducer on the outside, basically your antenna. Has a speaker on the back. That's where you listen to. Attaches to the mast strap. Battery goes in the back. A 9-volt battery goes in the back. All the electronics packages here, except for down here, we have, again, the push to talk button. And then on the inside, and I'm not going to be able to show you this effectively, I don't think, but on the inside here, we have a microphone. And there's too much stuff in the way to be able to show you the microphone. But on the inside here, we have a red microphone that you can't really see very well with the cameras that I have, a camera I have available here. Hang on. I have somebody that wants on, and I don't want to leave them out and just ignore them. Oh, technology systems. And okay, so but it's your full transceiver here, and the microphone goes on the inside. Now the microphone is a noise canceling microphone. We call it the hot mic. We have a couple of different microphones now. We have the super mic. We have a couple of versions now of the red microphone that goes inside the mask. All depth and floodable. A lot of people think that you can't flood your mask. You can't flood your microphone. You can. The microphone itself has a two-sided microphone. So when you go to depth, there's a hydrophobic membrane on one side, similar to Gore-Tex. The other side is a mylar membrane. And so what that does is that has the microphone element in between those two membranes. The Gore-Tex side, it's actually called VersaPore, but that allows air to pass through, but not moisture, so that microphone can breathe as you go to depth. Now, if you surround the microphone with water as you go to depth, in other words, you flood your mask, and you take it to depth, then that airspace can't equalize. So something's going to happen to that. Is most likely you're going to have water sweat through that VersaPore membrane, and that's going to damage the microphone. But if you put the mask on, it's in an airspace. You go to 100 feet, you have an issue. You have to take your mask off. Then it's at ambient pressure. It's equalized to that depth, so nothing's going to happen to it here. So as you come to the surface, and if you take your mask off or you're bailing out of your mask, most likely you're going to be, terminating your dive, safely terminating your dive, and you're going to come to the surface. So you come to the surface, and then the microphone's off gassing, and nothing's going to happen. If you flood it and you take it to depth, then at between 8, 12 to 15 feet, everyone's going to be a little different. There's a potential of damaging your microphone, so be careful with that. But I can tell you, we have microphones coming into the shop that are from 1998, and people are still using them. 22 years old. That was one I just saw not too long ago. Not uncommon to see those microphones still in use. Now, but it's a microphone. We're talking electronics and seawater, so I've seen those 22-year-old microphones work just fine. I've seen older microphones that I've seen newer microphones that go bad in a year if they're exposed to whatever. Do consider them a perishable item, and they can be replaced. The red microphones can be replaced. Our super mic, which is a different microphone, specialized applications, is not user replaceable. Sorry, I'm uncomfortable sitting on the floor here. Let's get back to comms. Okay, so I've talked about the buddy phone. The buddy phone being a transceiver. That's wire, and again, it's wireless. Now, this is your transducer. Let's talk about that real quick. Now, with wireless comms, we depend on the incompressibility of water to transmit the signal or to carry the signal. It's not a radio signal. It's a sonar signal, just like your depth sounder, whatever the case. It's ultrasound that we put sound in the water. We move water over here. We can detect that movement of water over here, and so we're sending the voice in an analog signal from one transducer to another transducer, from one transducer to another. Now, the important part to that is you've got an energy source. So you've got your transducer. My watch just pulled my earphone. Sorry about that. We have one transducer, and this is a transducer of a surface station to the transducer of your diver radio. So it's dependent that the energy get from this transducer to that transducer. Now, the point is, if you put a bunch of stuff in between those two, there's a potential of it interfering with it's going to block the signal. So let's talk about that. So it's not necessarily line of sight, but line of sight is always going to be better. So when you send that signal out, and let's talk, I don't want to bounce around here too much, but how the signal is transmitted initially is that we electronically take the signal, translate it into an ultrasonic signal, very high frequency. It goes into a ceramic ring. That ceramic ring now vibrates to the signal that we apply to it electronically. As it vibrates, it moves the water. That signal goes to another transducer. That transducer picks up it translates it back down into an audible signal. So it takes your voice, translates it into ultrasound from one unit to the other, translates it back down to an audible signal. That's basically how the through water system works. If you have stuff in between there's potential blocking, shadowing. A lot of things can get in the way. Air spaces are the worst. In that if you put, the human body, and we have a video online, it's called Body Shadowing. Go to our video page on our website, and it gives you a classic example of the human body and your wetsuit, your lungs, your BCD interfering with a signal just very short distance apart. So when you hear Ryan, if you watch that video, you'll see Ryan, when I tell him body shadowing, he rotates around and he exposes his transducer to my transducer so that we have now line of sight between the two. And you can see the difference between them. So again, wireless signal, it's an ultrasonic signal, not RF. And line of sight works best, not necessarily. We do depend on reflections and stuff like that. So that's basically how it works. If anybody has any questions about that, no, the dark and murky, does murky water doesn't really affect the range of the comms. It's what's in the water that affects it, not that's compressible. Anything that's compressible, bubbles, kelp that has the little nodules that float the kelp, algae, red tide, anything like that can have an interference with the signal. So you think that through if you have any issues. If you're swimming in another place where our gear is used quite a bit is in fish farms, salmon pens up in the Pacific Northwest and elsewhere, overseas around the British Isles. They have salmon pens over there, and also up around Newfoundland, there's salmon pens up there. That the signal, if you're talking wirelessly from one side of the pen to the other, the bladders, the swim bladders of the fish will interfere with that signal. So you're going to be limited to what you can get there. And then there's a lot of other factors that you have to take into consideration that I could do just a show on wireless only. You don't want your transducer sitting on the bottom for your surface station. You want to make sure it's suspended mid-water column. If your divers are going out, and there's a lot of different things. I don't want to get into that because that's going to take way too much time. But there are some things you need to think of it, how the signal gets from one transducer to another one, and anything that gets in the way, noodle out and try to help with that. And Jared, could you answer Dave Grunwald on the post? He didn't get the link. Just tell him to go to OTS, our website or our Facebook page. And thermoclines, Vasco asks thermoclines. Thermoclines are something else. Thanks for bringing that up. I'll try to bring the two other things about the wireless comms. Thermoclines are both a reflective and a refractive surface, or a layer between your thermal layers. What a thermocline does is, and if any, Hunt for Red October is a classic example where they talk about submarines hiding underneath the thermal layers. Well, the same principle applies. And the more they oblique the angle, if you think about it, the more oblique the angle, the more the reflection you'll get. Best bet with a thermocline is get over top where it shoots in. So what I meant by reflective and refractive, it's a reflective surface in that the signal can bounce off. And it's a refractive surface in that when it hits it, it actually bends the signal. So that when it comes in at an angle, just like light does, it'll change its trajectory, if you will. So there will be dead zones where there's no signal at a certain angle. There's no signal getting to a diver below the thermocline. Again, best bet's to get over top of them. Better yet is to get your transducer of your surface station suspended down below that thermocline. So your divers, as they swim down through a thermocline, report to the surface station and tell them, hey, we got a 30 feet, we've got a thermocline, and if they can get the transducer down below that, may mean you need to pick up an extension for the transducer cable to be able to get it down there. Other stipulations about that: you don't want to go too long on an extension, no more than one extension in a line, otherwise you'll have signal loss. But get that transducer down below the thermocline if you can. But it can be really remarkable, the effect that a thermocline can have on the signal. Literally, it'll be no signal below the thermocline if you're off at just the right spot in the oblique angle to that thermocline. The other thing is ambient noise. There can be biologicals, and biologicals, I mean snapping shrimp primarily. If you're diving in warmer water or anywhere that there's shrimp, there's cold water shrimp too, that they can make a lot of noise, and now you add thousands and thousands of shrimp together, it's going to sound like a very a pretty dramatic hissing static, if you will. And that'll vary even by times of day in the same location. The shrimp will be active at different times of day and different hours. Boat transducer, Kyle's asking if the boat needs to be in the middle of the water column. Get it down as low as you can. I mean, we have a hull-mounted transducer that works well, but it's only going to broadcast to the immediate vicinity underneath the boat. The more you get the transducer down, I'm going to sidetrack here in just a minute. Think of the transducer like a street light. We don't put street lights on the sidewalk because what's it going to do? All it's going to do is broadcast to that immediate vicinity around the sidewalk, right? In that area right there. That's sort of like our hull transducers. The hull-mounted transducers only broadcast to that immediate vicinity down. So what do we do with street lights? Well, we put street lights on a pole. So why? Because when we get it up there, it broadcasts over a much larger area. The surface station should be thought of the same way. If you get your transducer down in the middle of the column, taking into consideration what I just said about the thermoclines, but you get that down in the water column, it's going to broadcast over a much larger area, and so it's always best to sink your transducer as far as you can. Doesn't have to be very far, but get it down below down underwater as far as reasonable, given the extension. One helpful hint: if you're diving off of a boat and you're securing your transducer, tie it off to the bow of the boat, shorter than the distance from the bow where you secure it to your outboard or to your propeller. And the reason being is we could fund people's retirements at the office for those who cut their transducers off with their propellers. There are three different types of people, or divers, or boat operators or tenders that use surface stations. There's those that have, those that will, and those that will again cut a transducer off. So keep that in mind. And so it's you want to just be careful with that. When you're starting the boat, make sure you pull the transducer up. If you forget to do it though, which we've all done, ask my boss, Mike Pellissier. He's done it before too. Thank goodness he was driving the boat and he forgot to tell him to pull in the transducer, and it's his fault. Otherwise, we'd never let it down. No, it's happened. It's going to happen. You're going to do it at a certain point. Not a bad idea to have extras. Jim, the buddy phone is actually less than a half a watt of energy. It's a lower powered system. So back to the wireless comms real quick. We have the buddy phone, which I just showed you. We have this is our SSB 2010. We have quite a few different models of wireless comms. We have the SSB 2010, the 1001, Magnacomms, but different models of the Magnacom as well. Magnacoms are 70-watt systems. The SSB 2010, it actually puts out about 5 watts. We have a 25-watt version as well. There's a lot of energy going into the water. With the buddy phone, we generally consider the range of the buddy phone to be around, it varies. At 50 yards to, I've had as much as 1,000 yards out of it, and that's not reasonable. But we got it tweaked in. We got 1,039 yards off one test. But in reality, you're going to get a couple hundred yards out of it under good conditions. You have anything interfering, anything that's breaking up the signal, and between the two, the transceivers and stuff like that, then that'll have the interference. Keep in mind, the buddy phone is what? We call it the buddy phone for a reason, because it's for talking to your buddy. It's a buddy phone. Now the SSB 10, it puts out, again, 5 watts of energy, actually a little bit more than that. And we have ranges out to 1,000 meters with the SSB 2010. I've had more than that, but it depends on the circumstances. Conditions. The Magnacoms as a comparison is a 70 watt unit, and the Magnacom, which I didn't bring one with me, but the Magnacom puts out 70 watts of energy, and I've had 7.5 kilometers in range out of that. It's it's a screamer. It puts out a lot of energy there. You can actually hear it and almost feel the Magnacom when you're transmitting that signal. It's a very long range, and it's a lot of energy going into the water. But it's also a more expensive primarily military unit, but it's fairly expensive. So the SSB 2010, like I say, it puts out, for all practical purposes, 10 to 20 times more power than the buddy phone. So you are going to get more range out of it. Now, range, take into consideration, double the power does not double the range. To double the range, you have to quadruple the power. It's a matter of diminishing returns on the signal. I don't want to get into that. That takes too long. So that's basically wireless communications. Now, some of the issues with wireless is half duplex, meaning that you have to push the push-to-talk button to talk. Just like talking on a walkie-talkie, you're transmitting, you're not listening. When you're listening, you can't transmit. So only one person can talk at a time. Now, as many people are in the water can hear it, it's just another transducer. A lot of people, a common question is, do I need a surface station to be able to talk diver to diver? No. A surface station is just another radio. We call them radios. They're not radios. They're true water transceivers, but we'll call them radios just for brevity's sake. A surface station is just another radio in the water. So you don't need it as a relay. So 2 buddy phones can talk to each other. A buddy phone to a 2010 can talk to each other. Two buddy phones or 2 2010s can talk to each other. And then the surface station, add a surface station, and we have what I refer to as a communications triangle. Diver to diver, diver to surface, surface to diver. So you have that communications triangle. Everybody can talk to each other. So it's and again, wireless comms they're effective. A lot of people have some issues with them. When you think of what the issues are, noodle it out as to where, if you're not getting around a corner, well, you got to eliminate that corner. It's the human voice that we put into the water. And there's a lot of things. Just like the human voice, if you're working in an office, sometimes you have to stick your head out of the office to talk to somebody down the hallway. It's not like talking on a cell phone where you just pick up your cell phone and talk to anybody anywhere. Your voice is being transmitted through the water, so anything that gets in the way has the potential of interfering with that. So hopefully, if you have any questions about that, you can't. If you're not on my friends list on Facebook, you're welcome to look me up, John Hott, in Caryville, Florida. If you have specific questions, shoot me a note. I'll be more than happy to work with your teams. And that's another thing. If you have a team that you want, I'll join in on a conference call or whatever, Zoom meeting or whatever, and we can do this, on a limited basis for, as a private chat, if you like, where I can work with you guys to bring you up to speed on some of this stuff. Now, what else was I talking about with hardware? There was something else, or wireless. There's something else. Wireless, half duplex, so you can only talk and you can't listen. Now that brings us into full duplex with our comm rope. The comm rope is a 4-wire, primarily what we do, and I'll talk real quick about hardwire communications. Hardwire communication is a tether. You're running a tether to your divers. So we have what we call the comm rope, and this is our standard comm rope in blue. It comes in blue and yellow, and we also have floating comm lines now. The floating comm line is it's not a rope. It doesn't have a rope texture to it or a finish over, where it's braided. It's actually more of a cable, but it's a floating comm line. And the floating comm line, when people think floating, it just doesn't go boop like this up to the surface. It's going to play out across the bottom, but it's going to work its way to the surface, meaning that you're going to be, towing it behind you with less opportunity, not no opportunity, but less opportunity for snags if you're in a snag-prone environment. So the comm rope is, again, primarily for public safety. The aquariums, imagine, well, Paul's popped on, and we use, Paul's with the aquarium up in an aquarium up in Canada, and the aquariums use their interactive diver programs. Are almost all on hardwire. We have some with limited, some limited aquariums, or some aquariums that use it in a limited basis, wireless systems for their interactive diver programs, but hardwire works so much better. But you are tethered to the surface. You have a line going to the surface, so you're limited by the length of your cable. Now, the advantages of the hardwire is, again, that it's full duplex, meaning that we can have a conversation just like talking on a telephone. You can interrupt somebody. You can be talking at the same time. There's no push to talk. There's a microphone. It's a 4-wire system, meaning that you have 2 wires onto your microphone. So your microphone's going up. Think of it in simple terms, the microphone wires are going to the earphones of your tender on the top side. And your tender on the top side is going to be used as a headset with a boom microphone, sort of like similar to this one. And so your microphone's going to their ears, so they're hearing it. Now their microphone is going to your ears. So wire mic to their ears and 2 wires from their mic to your ears, if that makes sense. So you can talk to each other. So that's a 4-wire system. In older applications, older communication systems, they use a 2-wire system, and that's just 2 wires going down to the diver. Microphone and earphone are wired together. So signal down, signal up. The surface is listening only, and then when they want to talk, they have to push a button, and that turns the system around so only one person is talking at a time. The surface is monitoring at all times until they talk to the divers. They push a button and it reverses the system so that you've got your, only one person is talking at a time. The hardwire 4-wire system is the beauty of it, and in reality, it's going to be the best comms you're going to get. That's going to get into other things as far as troubleshooting comms. I think we're going to be running out of time here. I wanted to keep this to an hour, but I can do this here in the future. But the comm rope, as Rick Woodham points out, is used great in public safety. That's our primary customer. Public safety, light commercial, and aquariums are really our primary application for the hardwire comms. But the hardwire, again, it's you're transmitting up copper. There's no translation of your voice to ultrasound. If you think about the technology of translating your human voice into ultrasound, getting that from one point to another, translating it back into an audible signal, where you can actually hear it, that's technologically, that's a pretty big challenge. And with hardwire, though, it's a lot simpler. I mean, we're really sending the signal up through copper, back and forth through copper, and it's so much easier. It's so much more reliable. There's nothing really that can interfere with it. There are some things that you have to think about, and I'll sort of wrap it up with this. Troubleshooting your systems is when you're having a problem with your system, think it through, noodle it out, and certainly you can call us, read what we have for information on our website, read the manuals that come with it. I can't stress that enough, as the manuals will tell you so much, give you so much information if you just take the time to read it. But again, I'm available for conversations. My cell phone's listed in a lot of different places. And also here, I do a lot of business on Messenger. But when you have an issue with your comms, noodle it out. Somebody had asked me about addressing weak signal coming from the divers. And this could be either hardwire or wireless. A lot of that is going to be the microphone position. I mentioned about the noise cancellation properties of the microphone. The microphone has to be right at the corner of your mouth. And this is, again, I'll sort of wrap it up on this. But the microphone has to be at the corner of your mouth. And this is an example of troubleshooting. If you have your microphone tucked down underneath the skirt, or if you're using an Interspiro mask where you can get away from that microphone, I've seen microphone jammed way down into the bottom of the mask, then that microphone can pick up. It's a 2-sided microphone. I started to talk about this, but I diverted. That microphone being 2-sided, think of a drum. If you smack a drum, a single drum on both sides, it doesn't do anything. Boom, boom, boom. On one side, it does make noise. With a noise canceling microphone, works the same way. It's dependent on the sound being on one side of the microphone, not on the other, and it'll pick it up. So if you're talking into the end of the mic, the sound goes on both sides. It effectively nulls that communications your signal out. So you put it at the corner of your mouth. Some of the old style comes in the front, but right at the corner of your mouth. And that microphone you should be able to purse your lips and feel that microphone. And so that gets the signal in. And so the big point with that is if you don't have signal going in, you can only turn this volume up so loud. So it's energy in, it's dynamic microphone, energy in, energy out. If you don't get the energy in there, you're not going to get the energy out the other side. So you need to make sure that that microphone's there. You can reduce. Also, have your divers use what I refer to as their preacher's voice, so that you're not whispering into the microphone. You're speaking up and articulating into the microphone, and you get it into that one side of the microphone, and it'll make all the difference in the world. So the beauty of that is when you get a good strong signal going into the microphone, that allows you to turn the volume down. And when you turn that volume down, you're doing something else. You're turning down all that background noise. If you have a weak signal, you turn the volume up. When you turn the voice signal up, you're also turning all that background noise up. So it gets really muddy. And so the signal noise ratio is what we refer to it as. So you want that signal high and the noise low. So you get a strong voice in, and you can turn the volume down, which lowers the volume of the noise in the background and gives you so much better communications. And I can tell you that it's amazing how many people I give them that little spiel, if you will, and it makes all the difference. They call me up and say that fixed it. It's really pretty remarkable. So we're right at an hour and 1 minute. So I'm going to wrap it up here because I don't want to keep everybody too awfully long here. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Look for this. I'll be announcing them in the future again on Facebook and with collaboration with Andy at our Andy does a lot of our advertising and stuff like that, and he posts on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. So I'll be posting on the Guardian Technician page. Hopefully a lot of my technicians are on here, and we'll be posting future subjects in the future. We could break this down, and I'd like to probably keep it a little shorter, half an hour. Let me know what you think. Comment in it. I'll scroll through the comments as we can and answer as we can. Again, look me up on Facebook, John Hott in Caryville, Florida. And we can, if you need to, message me. My telephone number is listed on my business cards. I believe it should be on our website as well. But feel free to give me a call if you have any. My job is to make sure that the gear works for you guys. That's really not my sole job, but it's the most important job I do, is to make sure you understand it and that it works well for you. So again, comment below. I'll try to answer what I can. You guys stay safe, stay healthy, do what you can, and we'll all get through this and get on the other side. So we'll be able to look back on this, and everybody's going to recover. So thank you guys. I certainly appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.